There's a lot to be excited for when it comes to Penn State's offense, and you'll see it week 1 against West Virginia.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Penn State versus West Virginia is truly finally upon us, so let's get one final expert look at the game itself. This is Locked On Nittany Lions. I'm your host, Zach Seyko, and thanks so much for making us your first listen and watch every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. And help me welcome him back, the perfect expert to talk about Penn State football and the game against West Virginia itself is the voice of Penn State football, the voice of Penn State men's basketball. He's also a daily radio show host for Sports Talk with Steve Jones. Without further ado, Mr. Steve Jones himself. And today's show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy fixes tired fast with zero sugar and a convenient portable size. It's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. Go to 5hourenergy.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th. So we're going to talk about expectations for the big changes coming to Penn State's offense, defense, and how they match up with West Virginia. I'd appreciate it if you left a like on this episode and let me know your thoughts down in the comments section and what you're anticipating the most from Penn State football this season. Steve, you know this team inside and out, the roster better than anybody else that is covering Penn State football. The first thing that comes to mind, or what everybody's looking forward to, is the new look Penn State offense. Andy Kotelnicki comes in from Kansas. He's, in short, innovative, and he's got a plethora of talent to work with. When you look at this group, Steve, what is the biggest change that you're anticipating from 23 to 24?
Well, first of all, Zach, it's great to be with you again. Zach
Thank
and
you.
I teamed up for a long time, and he always has done brilliant work. So thanks for inviting me on.
Thank you for doing this.
And with Andy, there's a lot of movement out there, pre-snap movement and so forth. And the idea is you want to get guys into space where they can make plays. And you want to make your playmakers get into space where they can make plays. And you can run any scheme you want, but you need to have the talent to do it. And Drew Aller gives him a big arm that can make plays for him. Trey Wallace gives him a receiver that can make plays for him. Tyler Warren gives him a tight end that can make plays for him. Katron Allen and Nick Singleton give him 2 running backs who can make plays for him. And that's the bottom line. He has people he can get the ball to and get them into space that I think can make a difference as to what they're doing out there with this team. I think that will be the important part. And, of course, the offensive line will have to do their part in order to give them time to do this. And you can mix in a Bo Perbula. Liam Clifford is somebody that I think can be mixed in to make plays. Amari Evans has big play capability. And Julian Fleming has really stepped up and ended up having himself a terrific training camp, which has been a big plus. So you have an opener where, because of Andy's background, and especially of late at Kansas,
Yes,
if you had to pick a non-conference team to play in the opener against your brand new coordinator, it turns out it's a Big 12 team that saw him every single year. But conversely, you saw them every year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be fun to see how that part plays out because of the familiarity of styles.
Yeah, Andy Kotelnicki, most recently, that 2022 matchup, that Kansas offense, again, different group of players, was able to score 49 points. And I get it. Those are 2 different teams, 2 different rosters. But what's consistent is that it's Andy Kotelnicki's offense going up against a Neil Brown-led West Virginia team and a defense in that as well. Steve, Andy was brought in with the idea that Penn State's offense lacked explosiveness a season ago. And to an extent, somewhat in 2022, but it was obviously egregious in 2023 how absent it was. where does that explosiveness come from? Because they didn't make a lot of wholesale changes on offense. Quarterback's the same. Two running backs are the same. The receivers, aside from Julian Fleming, I know who they lost in the transfer portal, but Fleming's here now, and I wouldn't quote unquote call him an explosive receiver. I think he's, a security receiver, a possession receiver, and a guy who's really good at blocking in the run game. So where is that explosiveness going to come from when that's something that James Franklin really wanted emphasized going into this season?
Well, it comes from the ability to set it up. The big plays aren't just I drop back and I throw it as far as I can, and I do that 3 times in a row, and I'm going to hit one. No. You have to set that up along the way. Can you get them run conscious and then beat them with a big play? Can you make them pass conscious, and then you run a running play to get you a big play? So you have to be able to set up things in such a way, either through rubs, play calling, and of course the execution of the play calling, to get them thinking one way, which then gives you the opportunity at a big play. And the big plays happened at the end of last season. If you were, the Michigan State game, they had guys running free all over the secondary in that game. And this will be interesting because West Virginia had secondary problems last year. They've tried to solve their secondary problems this year through the transfer portal. So Hollis is an all Big Ten performer. He comes in from Northwestern. I think Jaheim Joseph's a good player. They brought him in from Northwestern. The guy that I find intriguing is Garnes. I think the second game of the season last year, West Virginia played Duquesne. And Garnes played really well in the game, but he was more of a nickel guy. They're asking him to go outside and play the outside part. As a nickel guy, they were really impressed with him. And so how's he going to hold up on a play-in and play-out basis? He could hold up really well, or it could be like, well, he's from Duquesne. I don't know. And then there's Aubrey Burks. Jalen Reed is really going to play this role for Penn State as that guy that can be the safety, can be near the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, the line.
Right? The lion position, as they call it. Well, Burks is that guy for West Virginia. And Burks is a guy, last year, the entire Michigan defense, we're talking, what they play, 15 games, had fewer than 10 missed tackles. As an entire defense, we can talk about all the ancillary stuff and so forth, but the 10 missed tackles, I think it was 8 or 9 for the whole season. Burks last year had 15, all by himself, and 7 of them were when he was in the box. So that's a big question in that game. Does a guy like that get better? Yeah. Is he better? And if he's still the same, now the opportunity is there to set some things up that you want.
I'm glad that you highlighted the matchup itself against West Virginia. Okay, Andy Kotelnicki's offense and what Penn State's going to do schematically is one thing, but how can West Virginia actually adapt to it? And something that I've highlighted, Lee Koba, the starting linebacker, was a do-everything kind of player for them and actually had one of the better performances a year ago. He's not with the team. Beanie Bishop, all world class. I think the secondary and the defense would have been a lot worse if it wasn't for him breaking up 20 passes, intercepting another 4. And those two guys who ended up being star players for them are not on this team.
Yeah, Bishop's with the Steelers, so
yes,
so it sort of was a step up. And then the other part is Zach Frazier's with the Steelers. They have 4 of their offensive linemen back. They took one of the guards and they made him a center.
Yes.
But let's face it, Frazier was the linchpin of that team up front and made such a big difference. So, everybody's going to miss players these days because of either the transfer portal or that thing called the NFL. And so you're going to miss out on some guys. And that'll be interesting as to how Penn State handles up front, because they are an odd man front. I mean, there are 3 down linemen, 2 stand-up end linebacker types. I mean, that's the kind of team they are. Some teams are even fronts. Some are odd fronts. They're an odd front. And I think that's going to be, as the season went last year, they didn't blitz as much. And as the season went last year, they were dropping 8 in the
Yeah,
cover.
they had to. Yeah.
Which, number one, does give your quarterback more time.
Right.
And number two, it now goes to the point that we made earlier about the ability in Andy's offense to create space. There's less space with 8 back there, but based on the stats, there's more space back there than we realize because the West Virginia secondary, they gave up, 13 and a half yards per completion last year. And that has, for them to win, that has to improve.
Still to come on this episode of Locked On Nittany Lions, we've gotten a better idea of what this offense is going to look like for Andy Kotelnicki, utilizing every asset that's available to him. One of those assets includes Drew Aller's legs as being more of a mobile quarterback. Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen in the passing game. We'll discuss that more and how that goes against West Virginia coming up next here on the show. Today's episode is brought to you by Factor Meals. Factor Meals are great because there's no prep and there's no mess. You can even meet your wellness goals with Factor Meals thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto. Plus, you get Factor's fresh, never frozen meals that are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just under 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. And you have options. With 35 different meals, more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. Keep the kitchen time to a minimum. So for someone like me that's always on the go, this is great and convenient. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes. There's no shopping, there's no prepping, there's no cooking or cleaning up. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 and use promo code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month with an active subscription. This episode is also brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. It's the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your number one ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to its peak performance. Got superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride each and every time, or you get your money back because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car into that MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. That is ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Steve, something that I've talked about a lot for weeks, I got to imagine months at this point, I've kind of lost track of how many times I've tried to emphasize that Drew Aller will be more of a mobile quarterback. I'm not trying to make the argument that he is Denard Robinson from the 2000s or Lamar Jackson when he was at Louisville, but allowing Aller to run 5, 10, 15 yards on well-designed plays forces the defense to at least to have to account for him so that they can't sell out for a Singleton and Allen on a run play and stack the box and keep everything close to the formation. And it also forces defensive ends and linebackers to be disciplined on that read option if it does present itself. And you can't just leave the safeties over the top to, again, Drew Aller's not going to run it, so we can just sell out for the pass. My point is that it keeps the defense honest. Are you anticipating the same thing that I am, that Drew Aller is going to be more involved as a runner himself?
Well, look, Drew has very good point A to point B speed. The difference is like for example, when you look at a guy like Bo Perbula. Well, Bo Perbula is a guy that can flat out run.
Yes.
I mean, he can drive defenses crazy. But Drew from point A to point B has a little more foot speed than people realize. And the other area where it comes into play is actually in the red zone. Because if you have a quarterback that can run, or at least has shown the capability of doing it, I've now got to keep somebody in to account for him. If I don't have to account for him, I can now drop as many guys as I want or blitz whatever I want to do. But if I have to account for the possibility he's going to run, I've got to keep a guy in the neighborhood, which takes him out of the pass game.
Yes.
And also takes him out of the blitz game. And that's what a mobile quarterback can do. Now, I'm not saying he's a mobile quarterback, but he can, again, from point A to point B, he has exponentially better speed than people realize. Now, it's the ability to cut and dart and things like that. That's not his game. That's not him. And then, of course, he has the running backs. You brought up Katron Allen and Nick Singleton in the pass game. Allen's always been a good pass receiver in the pass game. He always has. Singleton, when he first got here, was what I refer to as a body catcher. Body catcher is a guy up against, like, makes the catch up here.
Pins now it to his shoulder pads, right?
Right. Now you watch Nick catching the ball, especially in the last year and a half. Hands are out here. Right? And he's making catches because now he's so confident in what he does with it. And to put that talent in space in the open field, I mean, that just changes all the dynamics you want. We talked about setting up big plays. You hit a couple plays like that. Now they're starting to roll up a little bit. Oh, they rolled up. Time to go. Right? See, that's how there's certain ways to set things up.
And I think that's an element of where the explosiveness can come from, is that you have Singleton or Allen or maybe both on the field at the same time, and then you motion somebody out. Singleton, there's that pre-snap movement. Singleton moves into the slot. And then you got to put a linebacker that just can't go toe-to-toe with him in terms of his speed. Yeah. A quick slant and the wide open turf with your safeties back because you have to account for a deep throw. It just sets up very nicely.
Well, I'll give you an example of that. It was the 2017 game with Michigan in Beaver Stadium. Penn State comes up. They'd run a couple of wildcat plays, including the opening touchdown.
Yes.
Where they shifted and they direct snapped it to Saquon Barkley and he went for a touchdown. Later in that game, they took Barkley, boom, and they motioned him out and they put him at wide receiver. And Michigan reacted by putting a linebacker out on him. Well, Jack Ham and I immediately said on the broadcast, the matchup is up top. They can't handle him up there. And that's the one where Trace threw it. He juggled it just for dramatic effect, and then caught the touchdown pass. That's the ability to exploit a matchup and hit a big play and using your running back in the passing game to do it.
Franklin alluded to just the other day at practice that Singleton and Allen could be used on the field in terms of that 20 personnel, 21 personnel. And that was something that I tried to emphasize a lot. I said, this is a no-brainer. It's too good to pass up on. Circumstances are a little different because Penn State didn't exactly have the running back depth chart that it wanted to a season ago. So I'm willing to understand that, yeah, you could point to play calling and everything else, but it's also what players you have available on the roster. Penn State, with everybody healthy, feels really confident in Cam Wallace as a number 3 back. So does this open up the potential for Penn State to have both Singleton and Allen on the football field at the same time outside of your classic T formation?
Right. It certainly does. That they can be out there at the same time. It depends on how many wides you want to put out there. It depends on how many tight ends you want to use. I mean, that's one thing about Andy's offense. He can have both running backs back there. He can have 2 tight ends out there. He can go with 3 wides and 4 wides out there if he wants to. So it just depends on what he's trying to do with the offense at the time. And sometimes a formation is window dressing. Yeah, I can go out there. Say I'm sitting there and I put empty backfield 5 wides. Oh, but I motion back the running back. Now I got 4 wides and a running back. I may just run the ball. That's the glory of it. You just don't you don't know. Only the NFL forces you to say what play you're going to run. That's on onside kicks. So, I'm kicking it now. Okay, that's the new NFL rule. But so it's fun when you have a multitude of things you can do. But what makes it fun is you need to have the talent to do it. Does he have the talent to do it? Yes, and that makes a big difference. And the fact that the wide receivers have had the camp that they've had opens up a wide range of possibilities for him.
Well, I think that's good and reassuring intel, especially because people ask me a lot about, what are my thoughts on the wide receivers? And it's kind of the same
Mhm.
thing, at least when I hear from Coach Franklin or any of the other assistant coaches or even the players talk about it himself. It was kind of almost like an elephant in the room in 2023.
Mhm. Sure.
And Franklin was mum as far as, mum's the word as far as, hey, which players had stood out. And now everybody's kind of quick to praise individuals in this group. I mean, someone we haven't brought up yet is Amari Evans. I think Amari Evans could have a big season.
Maury Evans is the guy that can take the top off, which is what you're looking for in that big play offense. I think he has done a better job of being a far more consistent player in the preseason. In terms of his level of consistency, and this now is third year in the program, this has been his best camp in level of consistency. And that's made a big difference. And that's something I'm looking for. But above all, you have to now do it in the games. Okay, you got to do it in the games.
Right.
We've seen in practice, they can do it in the practice. The wide receivers really had an excellent camp, but you have to now do it in the game. And so we'll start to get a better read on whether the game confirms the practices starting on Saturday. I think it will. I'm fairly confident it's going to, but I think we'd all like to see it.
We've spent a lot of time, and rightfully so, discussing the offense because the defense was able to do its job week in and week out.
Mm-hmm.
Let's pivot to the defense. The Tom Allen group, a team that could run a 4-2-5 base a majority of the time, and how they match up against West Virginia. We'll discuss all of that next to wrap things up here on Locked On Nittany Lions. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Want to get in shape, but are you having trouble staying motivated? Make 5 Hour Energy shots part of your lifestyle and get the energy boost that you need to get fit. We all know sometimes you don't want to go to the gym, and that's okay, but take a 5 Hour Energy shot to give you that feeling and alertness so you can go to the gym. With zero sugar and a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up to get stuff done. 5 Hour Energy website has flavors galore, like watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and more. There is truly a flavor for everyone. You can try them all because on the site, you have the option to build your own 12 or 24 pack. You choose the flavors, and it's delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, and get a 5 Hour Energy product today, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid till September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is also not good on subscription orders. Again, that is promo code LOCKEDONCFB for 20% off your order. So go to 5hourenergy.com today. Today's episode is also brought to you by Home Field Apparel. Fall is quickly approaching, and that means one thing. College football is back. And to make sure you're ready, we've partnered with Home Field, the exclusive apparel sponsor of our show, to bring you their Can't Miss Kickoff 2024 campaign. Home Field is the go-to for premium collegiate apparel crafted with comfort in mind and featuring vintage designs that'll make you the envy of any tailgate. With over 180 schools to choose from, there's something for each and every fan. But the real MVP, now this is in crazy what this product is. The Home Field Platinum Football Box. This is an all-access pass to exclusive gear for the 2024 season with 3 never-before-seen items from your school, plus VIPs get even more. A special hat and the 2024 Platinum Pass for early access and discounts all season long. So don't wait. Head over to homefieldapparel.com and gear up today. And Locked On Nittany Lion listeners can use our promo code WeAre24. Again, all you got to do is go to homefieldapparel.com, use promo code WeAre24. Let's make this season unforgettable. Penn State was number one in a lot of categories, from being one of the best run defenses to the team got a lot of pressure. The architect of that defense is no longer in Happy Valley. He's over at Duke, but in steps a defensive mastermind in his own right, Tom Allen. Anytime that we've spoken to him, he almost seems just grateful, thankful that he gets to coach defense all by itself again, rather than trying to do everything that he can as a head coach. But it seems like he's gotten back to his roots, and he feels really good about the group that he has. And of course, so much more talent is available to him at Penn State than it was in Indiana. That's just the fact of the matter here. But I like this defense. I think this defense can absolutely be a top 10 group once, they get things, all together, timing and everything in terms of gelling together, the
Mm.
chemistry, if you will, by, I think, sooner rather than later. But Steve, can this group be another top 10 group that flies around and is all world class and elite that gets them to a college football playoff?
Well, Tom is very much like Andy Kotelnicki in that they're not square peg round hole guys. When John Beilein left West Virginia in basketball and went to Michigan, I have a lot of respect for John. John, when he got there, there's a certain offense he wanted to run. In the first season, he didn't have anybody on that team that could run his offense. It was all square peg round hole. Now his goal was, hey, look, I'm going to show everybody this is how we play. I want to recruit to it, and eventually we saw it pay off. But he had square pegs round holes. Andy and Tom look at their personnel and say, okay, you can do this, you can do this. What I like to do, you can also do that. And there's a couple things you're not comfortable with, so we stay away from that.
Mm.
They don't do square peg round hole. So they try to put all their players in the best position possible to make plays. You've got 5 defensive tackles that are all going to play and play well. You got 4 defensive ends. But the key is to me is Carter. Abdul Carter at defensive end. Because when a quarterback comes to the line of scrimmage, he looks at the middle linebacker. That sets the front. He looks at the safety. That gives him at least a thought process on the coverage. Right? But now every single quarterback has to walk up and go, where is 11? Left, right, middle, right? Where is he? What's he going to do? Is he going to come after me? Is he going to drop? And if he comes after me, I may need to keep in a tight end to chip. I may need to keep in a running back to chip. And so what's the domino effect of that? Oh, then Dennis Sutton and Amin Vanover on the other side have single coverage. Oh,
right.
That makes a big difference. He knows that in his system to have 3 safeties is really important. He's got that because of Zakee Wheatley. Winston's a given. He is a legitimately outstanding safety. Reed's a given. Legitimately an excellent safety. But Wheatley's the guy that allows him to pull off what he wants to do because Wheatley is really good and has great ball instincts. Your corners, look, Kimber, Harris, and Miller, right? But then, they're going to mix in Washington. They're going to mix in Tracy. They're going to mix in some other guys. But those 3 guys are 3 guys that you can depend on right away. I think that can make some plays for you with their athleticism. And in Miller's case, Miller has great instincts. I mean, Kimber does too. Harris is a superior athlete out there. But, they could run 7 corners out there. They're not going to play 7 corners, but they could. So they have that kind of depth. And you need to have depth to get through just a 12-game regular season, let alone the possibility of more games moving forward. And then he's got his linebacker. Kobe King had his best camp by a wide margin. In the area when Jack Ham and I have been at practice together, we both talked about King, who is always a good run stopper. But in the pass game, you're like, do I want him out there? Now he plays the pass well, proper depth of a drop, things like that. And then there's Rojas. Rojas is the perfect example of having a linebacker who is an excellent athlete combined with excellent skills. There are a lot of great athletes that play football that, in all honesty, don't have great instincts. There are a lot of great athletes that play football, and really, I can say this about every sport. Great athlete doesn't quite know how to, quote, play the game. Rojas is the great athlete that knows how to play the game. Those guys are special.
He jumps out to me at practice every time that we get that 10, 15, 20-minute viewing window where he's just finishing ahead of everybody else in terms of those speed, agility, technique drills. He's always first to finish, and there's a step or 2 in between. So that, again, good information about Rojas and how far that, especially with a linebacker group that does, frankly have some question marks, but that's good to know that Kobe King and Tony Rojas are at where they are in their respect, going into the season. Steve, let's finish with this. Penn State versus West Virginia. West Virginia's bread and butter is the offense. 3 returning rushers, including the quarterback in Garrett Green, that had 750 plus yards apiece.
Yeah.
This is a team that will run it, try to catch you napping, and then try to throw it over the top. So they have that big play explosive ability as well. I don't have any concerns with West Virginia's defense as much as I do with the offense. I think West Virginia can score some points if they get things set up. So how do you limit this West Virginia offense that does have a lot of experience to it and found some rhythm towards the end of last season?
Well, Green's a gutsy quarterback. I mean, he can really run. I think he throws it a little bit better now than he did a year ago. He went to the Manning passing camp. I think that helped him out a little bit. Taylor's a good tight end. We'll have to see about their wideouts. I mean, they brought in Bray, they brought in Robinson. Preston Fox is back, and I liked him last year. I thought he was a good player for them. But what you want to avoid is the scenario, and I know they play a little different style than Georgia Tech does, but what Georgia Tech did a great job against Florida State last week was with their running game and the power running game and the use of the quarterback in the running game, they shortened the game. It gave Florida State and Georgia Tech each had 7 possessions in the game. Right? No, you got to have 10 to 12 possessions when you get into a game like that. If you're only getting 7 shots at it,
right,
that's not good. And so you want to avoid that, which means you've got to be able to do a good job on the game, on the run game. Donaldson's a hammer. White's really quick. White wasn't really a factor in last year's game.
No.
Donaldson was pretty good. Green, of course, we know he can run, but when he drops back to pass, you have to do an excellent job and contain. Don't let him get outside. Or now, what's he going to do? Is he going to take off and run? Is he going to then throw the football? The wide range of options he has once he breaks contain. So you got to keep him in with the confines of that box, right? So that he has to operate as a drop back quarterback. And the offense can help out by giving the defense the lead. By playing with the lead in a game like this, it's huge because now if you get up a couple scores, right, now, they have to do things that they really didn't want to do.
You force them out of their comfort zone,
Yeah,
right?
Right. Where they're not controlling the tone and tenor of the game. They're now been forced to play your game. And nobody wants to play somebody else's game.
He is the voice of Penn State football, Penn State men's basketball, and hosts a daily radio show on WKOK up in Sunbury from 1 to 3 p.m. That is Steve Jones. Does so much. He's obviously going to be calling the game itself for Penn State football, which you can listen to on gopsusports.com. Steve, thanks so much for the time, especially with your busy schedule now that football is back. Penn State athletics have fully returned here. So you're doing radio shows, you're doing radio coverage as well, and all of the other, and teaching and all of the media stuff in between. So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk Penn State football going into the season and against West Virginia.
Well, Zach, as always, it's great to be with you. Anything for you, you know that. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And as always, thanks so much for checking out this episode of Locked On Nittany Lions. Let me know your thoughts, final predictions for Penn State versus West Virginia, and expectations for the 2024 season. You can check out Steve's work outside of Penn State football coverage down below in the description. And if you would leave a like on this episode, I'd greatly appreciate it. Share it with friends and family while you're at it. And if you're not already, become an everydayer. Subscribe to Locked On Nittany Lions on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts for the latest conversations around your favorite Penn State sports teams. And for your second listen and watch, check out Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin. The season's here. College football is back, and he is getting you ready for it every step of the way with game previews, recaps, analysis, and talking about the news as it happens all around college football. And that's why it's called Locked On College Football. Available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.